Jump off that exhausting hamster wheel and into balanced living with Dr. Marissa.
Promise you joy in the mystery.
Dr. Marissa, also known as the Asian Oprah. Her mission, to be a beneficial presence on the planet. Her purpose, to be your personal advocate to live, laugh, love, learn. Her life motto, don't die wondering. Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Pay.
And you're tuned in to Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It, Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on KCAA, NBC News Radio Channel, AM 1050, FM 102.3, FM 106.5, and streaming everywhere, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, Amazon Music, Audible, and more. Because I want you to be 88% happy. Because that's what the mission that I'm on. And I don't want you 100% happy because then you'd be dead. Just 88%. And so I have people, places, and things that I report on this morning show that help you with that. And I have an inspiring guest and his cousin / uncle who are going to help you understand something that affects a lot of us these days. I know that you know at least one person who has autism, and you've also heard him on my show before. I'd like you to welcome back to my show Marc Pulver, author of Living with Autism, and Cousin Bob, who's the editor. And welcome to my studio. I know you're streaming in from, I believe, New Jersey and Florida. And in order to introduce yourselves, I have a friend. She doesn't have an answering machine. She has a questioning machine. And when you call her, she says, "Who are you? And what do you want?" So that's the question to start us off. Bob Shostak, am I saying your last name correctly? Is that
perfectly?
Perfect. Oh, awesome. Could you tell me who you are and what you want?
Well, I'm Bob Shostak. I'm just an old timer who's sitting here in Palm City, Florida. And what I really want is to help my cousin, Mark, to become what he is dreaming he would like to be. And that is an actor. And we're helping him try to acquire that dream. And that is
beautiful.
What we want.
Right, and a book, and we're going to talk about the book as well. You were very instrumental in helping him with that. And Mark, who are you, and what do you want?
I'm Marc Pulver, and I want to advocate for the world living life with autism, the world through my eyes, to help others also achieve their dreams and goals.
Fantastic. So we're going to have a conversation for the show. I know that a lot of you out there may be wondering how autism impacts people, as well as how to thrive with it. And I think Mark is an excellent example of not letting a diagnosis like autism keep him down. So I guess I want you to go back to the beginning. Let's get to know, first of all, how you guys are related, and then go on from there. So what do you remember about Mark growing up with autism as a child? I think you're both from Florida originally, correct?
Well, yeah. Not originally. We didn't move there until 1971, and they were there several years before us. But we did become a much closer family with Mark and his brothers and my cousin Sybil. That's my first cousin. Mark is my second cousin. And we got to know each other very, very well. And my mother and father, as a matter of fact, were living in Florida years before we moved in there. And they did a lot of work getting Mark to the point where he could actually go to a school, actually get right through high school. And when we were there, of course, we were very, very close, and we spent a lot of time together.
Beautiful. So Sybil is Mark's mom. So just to get the relationship here. So Mark's mom and you are first cousins.
Right.
Great. And then Mark, your parents met in New York.
Correct.
Correct. And then they had you. Did they have you first, second, or third?
Third.
Third. So how many brothers and sisters?
I just have two brothers.
Two brothers. Kudos to your mom raising three boys. I can't even imagine. I have two girls. So I think I prefer girls. They say there's benefits and consequences to both of them. Bob, do you have kids yourself?
Yes, I have two. I have a son and a daughter.
Oh, so you have one of each.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So you watched Sybil bring Mark through some challenging times. So she did not send Mark. You didn't get sent to a special school, or did you grow up in the public school? Or
No, I did for the first years, like 10 years or so, whatever it was. I did go to private schools, kids for disabilities. I did go to a private school to get individualized help.
Okay. And then the decision was made to put you in a public school, correct?
Yes. Then I went to a public high school, and I just took a couple special ed classes, but also regular classes, and I did get my high school diploma.
Fantastic. Now, we skipped over that pretty quickly. You capture this. Now, did you know you were going to edit a book, Bob? If I had asked you that, if you knew that when you were growing up, you were going to be an editor?
Well, no, I've written several books myself. A lot of editing and writing, but I was absolutely taken aback when Mark approached me one day and said to me, I want to write the story of my life. I almost fell off the chair because I didn't know where Mark was coming from with that. And
right.
I said to him, well, I've never said no to him, okay? I've given him a lot of advice, some of which he takes and some of which he doesn't take, but I never say no. Anyway, we were at a party, and he took me up to the side and said, I'm at the point now that I think I want to tell everybody what happened to me. And I said to myself, maybe we can do this. I don't know how, because I know Mark had never written a word that I knew. He was a good reader, but writing was not his forte. But I said yes, and I sat down and devised a way in which I thought he might be able to get a book out of the guy. All right. And
fantastic.
What we actually did was we got Mark to the point where his brother came into the picture and had taught him how to use Word on a computer. And Mark picked that up pretty well. He could write emails and do things like that. And I was living almost 2 hours away from Mark. And so it was very difficult getting to meet each other. And so what I did was I said, if I can get Mark to write me an email containing answers to questions, a technique that you use very carefully. It was basically the same thing. And I approached him and said, look, you're going to write a book, right? Okay. Tell me the first thing that comes into your mind. Put it on an email and send it to me. We repeated this over and over and over again. And every day was a surprise for me. Because not only did he answer the question, he just kept babbling on and on and on and on. And he got to the point within about 3 or 4 months, I had enough material for a book. I literally had enough material. Of course, it was just impossible to read, and that's where the editing came in. It was one of the first real books on this situation, an autistic man expressing how he got through life, that the words in this book were all of Marc's words. I just simply took them and put them in some kind of an order that was readable. Most of the books at that time that were coming up were written by my life, for my son, or my life for my daughter, which is fine, that's great. But Marc seemed to have something in him that was just driving him to get these words down on paper. And eventually we had enough material there, and the book was quite successful. It was an interesting read.
Absolutely. Yes, I have read it, and I absolutely agree with you. To get something from the actual eyes or mind or the source of whatever it is. I had a guest on several years ago, Greg O'Brien, who's a Pulitzer Award-winning journalist, and he got early onset Alzheimer's. And so he wrote a book from the inside of the mind of Alzheimer's. And so now I have Marc from inside the mind of autism, to which I'm so proud of him for, one, wanting to do it, and then two, actually following through and executing it. And because of that, I gave him the Dr. Marissa Beneficial Presence on the Planet Award. And because of that, I'm going to give you, who helped him with that process, the same award, Dr. Marissa's Beneficial Presence on the Planet Award, to Bob Shostak. And I'm sure you already have a bunch of awards, but that's a new one.
I'm proud to have it. Thank you so much.
Of course. And we're going to take a quick break. We're going to go into the section question of the day that I always want you to be happier than you are right now, unless you're 88% happy, and then you don't even need to tune in. But we're going to come right back with the question of the day, followed by the rest of my conversation with these two fabulous guys, Marc Pulver, author of Living with Autism, and his cousin Bob, the editor of the same book. So we'll be right back. Don't go away. You're tuned into Take My Advice. I'm Not Using It. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on KCAA, NBC News Radio, the station that leaves no listener behind.
Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Pay.
And welcome back. You are tuned in to Take My Advice. I'm Not Using It. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on CNBC, NBC News Radio, KCAA, AM 1050, FM 102.3, FM 106.5, streaming everywhere, including my YouTube channel, where you can get lots of past shows, all 528 of them, as well as my Red Carpet playlist and my new short film, the new PPP, Post-Pandemic Possibilities. So tune in there, and we're going to come back after the next break with more with Marc and Cousin Bob and Living Life with Autism. But I wanted to, as promised, always spend a little bit of time every show answering the question, how can I feel better now? How can I do that? So I'm just spending a little time because we do have the guests, but here's the tool for today. If I remember that I'm never going to get this time back, if I remember that there's no do-overs in this thing called life, if I remember that I can spend every day hating what I'm doing or finding something that I like and that's my choice, then every day becomes a little bit more precious. And the preciousness of life is the Happy 88 tool. If I could inject in you that the preciousness of life is not something to be taken for granted. So when people say, I don't want to live anymore, I get that they're in pain. I understand. I've been in that place where I feel so bad that I don't want to live anymore. I've been there. I get that feeling. I've wanted to turn my wheel into the middle divider on the 405 South, going through my very difficult divorce where I lost a lot of money. Now, I get that. There are things in life. You've been betrayed. You've been abused. You've been hurt physically, mentally, that you don't want to live anymore because the pain is so bad. But I'm here to tell you that once you say, I don't want to live anymore, that's a permanent solution to a temporary dis-ease with life. So I'm here asking you to remember how precious life is. Please, 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 please remember that this thing called life, we're not really sure where we're going. I know the people that are on the other side, people who have died and come back, almost every single person says, there's lights, it's warm, it's peaceful, there's so many great things that are shining their light on, and there's singing and music. So it's not a bad place to go to. That's not my point. But my point is, whether you believe in the afterlife or not, whether you believe in the Big Bang Theory or Darwin or Jesus or or Adam and Eve, however we came here, the reality is, the thing that is absolutely certain, 100% real, is this thing called life. Is this moment right now that we are alive. That we know for sure, and we cannot get the day back. Once this day is done, it's done. I can't go, oops, I forgot. Can I redo that? Or I made a mistake, which I called missed takes. You can't redo it. You can try to do better. You can't take things back. You can't unring a bell, which is why I try to never miss an opportunity to keep my mouth shut, except when I'm on the air. But there is absolutely a special breath that you can take as soon as you start hating someone else, hating yourself, hating life, to just stop and take that breath. In through the nose, out through the mouth. In through the nose, releasing all the stories and the drama. In through the nose, releasing soft shoulders, soft elbows, soft knees. In through the nose, releasing and connecting and remembering how precious life is. And usually those breaths give you a little bit of space to come off the ceiling and to remember there's no do-overs of this next 3 minutes, of this next hour, of this next afternoon. So I want to make sure that I do the best that I can with the resources I have and the time that I have. Does that make sense? And that's it for today's answer to the question, how do I feel better today? I hope you use that tool. And because I want you to continue to practice your muscle on choosing happiness, today's Asian Oprah giveaway is the audiobook copy of my #1 best-selling book called Take My Advice. I'm Not Using It. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa. And it is, 8 bestseller lists, #1 on Amazon, #4 on Denver Post. Grateful for that 4 book medals. And the foreword, my big brother, Michael Bernard Beckwith, is the forward writer, and back cover endorsement by Neil Donald Walsh, best-selling author of Conversations with God. I have a plethora of wonderful, incredible people who wrote tributes in the front and praise for the book, including Layla Ali, Muhammad Ali's daughter, who's a past guest. And if you want to get her interview, just go to my YouTube channel. Fabulous interview. I think it was a New Year's interview, actually. And Marianne from Gilligan's Island, beloved Don Wells, who, no thanks to COVID, is on the other side. But she's loving us from there. But she says great, beautiful things about my book, as well as I had a Guinness World Book record holder, Werner Berger, who climbed all 7 summits, who wrote, and Jeffrey Hazlett, who was a guest celebrity judge on NBC's Celebrity Apprentice. I could go on. Let's see, Shay Vaughn, who is Vince Vaughn's mom. So it's a great book, even, you know, if I do say so myself. And remember, I didn't write this book as a psychologist telling you how to be happy. I wrote this book because I'm one of the 7 out of 10 of us who have had childhood trauma. And I had every reason not to be happy. And for many years, I kept myself unhappy. But these are the tools in this book. There's exercises that if you do, I promise you will never hate yourself the same way again. And that's why I wrote the book. And that's why people have really taken to the relief that they feel, that they're not alone. And pain in life is mandatory, but suffering is optional. So I really, really, really want you to get your hands on this. And so the first 8 people that go to drmarissa.life and put in their Asian Oprah giveaway in the subject line and their email, I will send you the promo code, because I do want you to choose happiness. If you would rather have a hard copy and signed by me, you can get that on my website as well. If you want to support any of my work that I'm on this Happy 88 mission too, and would just like to donate to my 8 Ways to Happiness 501c, that's also at the website. And there's a gift with every donation. You can choose this book or my children's book, Mommy What Are Feelings, which every feeling has a taste, touch, sight, and sound, illustrated by my daughters when they were 5 and 7. And it's a great book, especially since we're focusing on autism today with Mark. If you have autistic kids, it's been recognized as a tool to help autistic children express their feelings. So all that and more at drmarissa.life. I really do want you to feel better now. So there's really no reason to be unhappy. If you'd like some personal attention, I do life balance coaching. If you book a little time, we can chat first. It's drmarissa1.youcanbook.me, and that'll give you a little window and we can chat and I can see how I can help you up your happiness factor and claim your birthright to happiness. Please, please, please do. Okay? And don't go away. We're going to have the rest of my interview with Marc Pulver, living life with autism, and his cousin Bob, who helped him write the book. Just an amazing life, helping us understand what it's like to live through the eyes and the understanding of autism. This is Dr. Marissa with Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show on KCAA, the station that leaves no listener behind. Don't go away. I'll be right back.
Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Pay.
And we're back. You're tuned into Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on KCAA, AM 1050, FM 102.3, FM 106.5, and streaming everywhere, including my YouTube channel, where you will find all of my past 527 shows on my 449th consecutive week on the air, because yes, it is my job to get you to claim your birthright of happiness. And to that end, you can go free subscribe on the YouTube channel. You get the shows as well as my red carpet playlist where I've got interviews with Halle Berry and John Travolta, Quincy Jones. So lots of good, fun, free stuff on my YouTube channel. And we're back with two extremely interesting gentlemen. I don't even remember exactly how Marc found me, but I did get a message from him saying, I want to be on your show. And I listen. And when I meet people who have something really important to say, Marc has autism. He has not let his diagnosis limit him from pretty much anything, including writing a book. So we're going to talk about his book as well. We brought this time his cousin Bob, who edited the book, and we're talking about how that book got made and maybe now some of the highlights of the book that describe some of the challenges a man with autism has and some tools and techniques that you used to meet those challenges. So Marc, let's talk about that. How did you, Cousin Bob said, growing up was a bit of a challenge. You had difficulties expressing yourself. So tell me what that was like before you give me what it's like now, because obviously you're very articulate now. What were the challenges that you had when you were like steeped in the autism?
Okay, one thing were basically social cues, how to act in public, what to say, what not to do, and just basically had movements of my body rocking back and forth. I was just all over the place, and I would just vent frustration wherever I was, and I had just basically a lack of understanding what the teachers were telling me, and it was very hard for me to understand the academic work, and I just felt basically out of place. In a nutshell, I did not know how to fit in. That's what I was dealing with. Yeah.
So did you feel like you knew what you wanted to say and couldn't express yourself? Or exactly. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. I love that movie Awakening.
Yeah.
That had what's that actor? Anyways, go look it up and watch it because it so accurately captures the frustration and anxiousness that happens when you know what you want to say, but you cannot say it. So I'm also saying this because if you know people with autism, there is really nothing to be frustrated with because they want to communicate as much as you want them to communicate. But I think that when we get frustrated that it's not a connection, that we're blocking that. So for when you were frustrated, what would have been very helpful, Marc, for somebody to say or do to help you express yourself?
Just say, what's the problem? I see you're struggling. How can I help you with this situation? Most, other than family, most of my teachers and caregivers, whoever were my superiors, really didn't take, outside of family, the time to ask me that, what's troubling you, or how can I help? Not that I would have been able to explain it to them, but it would have been nice, and maybe at some point I could have spoken to somebody who acted like they cared to help me break down the barrier between me and what's going on in the outside world. Am I making sense?
Absolutely. That's very helpful. So even if you may not receive it that way, to have someone ask you instead of tell you, ask you what's troubling you, it might help you come down a notch. Is that about accurate?
Right. And maybe I would find some kind of way that I could vaguely look inside myself to them and just maybe open up a little bit. Oh, I have trouble understanding academic. Oh, I don't really know how to act in a social environment. Oh, I don't really know how to feel confidence in myself to be more accepted. Maybe that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Good advice. Good advice.
Yeah.
Bob, in your you had mentioned before, watching him struggle growing up. Talk to me about that.
Well, uh, one of the things that always disturbed me was the fact that although Mark was able to really do a lot, he was athletic. He could play games and he can do things like that. But once he was off the playing field, he was having great difficulty, interacting with individuals. And uh, I was particularly unhappy because the only kind of job he could get was, for the most part, cleaning up fast food restaurants or other kinds of things that were, in it had to be done. I'm not putting it down. It's just that it just wasn't doing anything for him. He seemed to be in this rut where he was going from one place to the other, he was not really doing anything that would make him feel that he belonged.
Mm.
He would always express that to me, that he doesn't know why people didn't like him, or why kids would make fun of him. And those were things that just bothered me all through his earlier years.
Mm-hmm. And that is, I love the way that feeling of belonging, which everybody wants, right? Everybody wants to feel that they make a difference, that they belong, that they're an important part of something. And just because you have autism doesn't mean that you don't have those desires. What a super important point. And I hope you all heard that are listening right now. Can you imagine what our world would be like if everybody got that? I mean, it would be amazing. So going back, okay, so you saw him having the struggles. Now Mark shared with me the last interview that his mom was very instrumental in helping him do the adjusting and do the communicating and doing the required learning in order to be more understood. Did you watch that? I guess you got kind of front seats to that. Bob?
Oh, you're still with me?
Well, yes, I'm still with you.
Well, she's an unusual woman. When Mark was really at a point where they didn't know what they were going to do with him, she took him to Johns Hopkins, I guess it was, and they did a complete workup on Mark. And they told him Mark would never amount to anything, and they ought to put him in a home.
Oh, wow. How old was he at that point?
I think it's around 5.
I was about 8 at the time. 8 years. Yeah. 8
at the time, right. And she said to them, I'm not putting him in a home. I'm taking him home, and I'm going to do whatever I can do to help him. And she's truly a remarkable woman who just did everything she possibly could to make him feel that he was part of the real world and not locked up into his own mind.
That's amazing. That's fantastic. What would you say her techniques were? Only because we had originally hoped to have her on, and one of the things I wanted to ask her was, what are some things that parents of kids who have autism, what are some things that they can learn from her experience in helping Mark thrive in the way that he is?
Well, I would say, first of all, you have to give into the notion that that the person is requiring something that he cannot acquire by himself. and you need to get into his mind and to try to understand what it is and get him to express himself in a way that you bring him to the point where, yes, he will understand what's the proper thing to do when you meet somebody. What is the correct way to hold your knife and fork when you're eating out or when you're eating right at home. And it's those everyday things that needed to be worked on and needed to be instilled in him. Repetition seems to be one of the things that helps a great deal. And, you get tired sometimes of telling somebody who, a so-called normal child, having to repeat yourself all the time. But you have to forget about that because you're dealing with a different kind of a child, and that child requires repetition over and over and over again until somehow or other it seeps in there and it's retained. I mean, it's remarkable the kinds of things that Marc has retained. He's got a marvelous mind, really, for seeing things and remembering. He probably can imitate every character on all of the old TV shows. All you have to do is mention the show, and he'll tell you who was on the show and how he sounded. So Marc had a lot inside of him, but it had to all be brought out with patience, repetition, and I would say those are the things that helped Marc get to where he is now.
That's fantastic. Patience and repetition. Then I'm completely screwed because when someone thanks me for being patient, I look over my shoulder to see who they're talking to. I know I am not good with patience. So it's a good thing, Marc, I didn't have to work with you earlier on, that your mom did all of that groundwork with you. So, Marc, how does it feel right now hearing all these wonderful things being said about you?
I'm basically on top of the world. I feel like I was reborn again ever since I moved. I think writing the book was the foundation of the building blocks, to the changes that that started to articulate the changes into the person that I am now. That was the first step. Was the foundation starting to write the book. It is just like one brick at a time, then one layer, then one section, then one room, until eventually the whole house is built. Am I making sense?
Absolutely. And I love the way this is a tool that he uses. I can tell, Marc, after having 3 conversations with you on the air, is when he says, am I making sense? He's checking in to make sure that what he has said is matching my understanding of it. So if you're listening and you have someone that you've not wanted to interact with because you didn't know or you were uncomfortable, that's also another goal of this show, is to improve your skill set in communicating with someone who has autism. Even though I know there's vast differences in levels of autism, I still think that there's some tools that cross a lot that we can be better at connecting, which is another point of why I'm doing this particular interview. So am I making sense, or do you understand, or repeating, as Bob was saying, and then patiently repeating and repeating until there is that point of I wouldn't say the light bulb goes on, but there's a matching in the understanding. Now, Marc, when your mom, who sounds, and I'm gonna happy birthday to her. Happy birthday, dear Marc's mom. Happy birthday to you. All right, you have to play that part for her. So I'm a retired lounge lizard, by the way. So it's like your book, in the same way, has you, and give me a couple of the chapter titles from the first part of the book for those who did not listen to your interview about your book. Marc?
Okay. Repeat that again. So
The chapter titles, or I should ask Bob, who probably lived with this thing for a while, your first 3 chapter titles of your book.
Okay. The first one I know of, the blueberry, the blue baby arrives. That's the first chapter. Bob, do you know the other 2 chapters? You know of the 3 chapters?
I can't review my.
That's fine. I put you on the spot for that.
I have the book right here. I can.
Okay. Yes.
Perfect.
Open a book and he'll read the first 3. But I know the first chapter is the blueberry arrives.
So the blue baby arrives, and that's describing how you came out. And I wanted just also to highlight the fact that how strong your mom is. Your mom had no idea that there was no warning that anything unusual was happening to her newborn, right? It wasn't until we saw the baby was blue that we knew that there was something wrong. Is that accurate?
Yes, I think that's accurate.
Yeah. So again, kudos to her for. I didn't know the story about the John Hopkins. Thank you, Bob, for that. Can you imagine a mom saying, "No, I'm not going to put him in a home. I want him to have a normal life." And so this is, if I look at your life, Mark, the first chapter is being different, understanding, knowing that you're different, and being categorized and potentially put away, right? Put aside, hidden, which is what many countries do to kids that are born disabled, right? They hide them, they put them away. But your mom said, not under my watch, and then basically forced you to learn how to live understanding what to do, what not to do. So there was phase 2. That was the adjustment. Phase 3 was somewhere along the line, Mark, you also said, no, I'm not going to be put away yourself, right? So your mom did it first for you. And then you said, Cousin Bob, I want to write a book. And that started a third phase for you, which is, I'm not going to be put away. I want to be heard. I want my story told, and I can do anything. So that is a beautiful progression that I think can apply to anyone who's been told at age 8 or whatever age, they have a diagnosis that says, no, you're going to be limited by this. So Mark is living proof that doctors don't know everything, right? My father's favorite joke was, what's the difference between God and a doctor? God doesn't want to be a doctor because they don't know everything. And Mark's living proof of that. Your mom said no. Now you're saying no. The book opened the door, and now the book is leading to acting, which I think is fantastic. All right. So have I stalled long enough for you to pull up the book?
Absolutely. I mean, you're right. You're absolutely right, because Chapter 2 talks about fears, fascinations, and memories. And the third chapter actually begins his school days. It's called School Days.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. And so if you haven't picked up this book that's done very well, I think the first run actually sold out, right? That's what I understand from Mark. The name of the book again is, Mark?
Living Life with Autism, The World Through My Eyes. And normally you can get it on Amazon.com. However, our old publishing company is no longer in business. However, we are looking for a different publishing company for those books at this time.
Fantastic. So if you're a publisher and you are looking for an already successful book about life through the eyes of someone who actually has autism, you can get a hold of Mark or Bob or I. And I think, Mark, you have an email address, yes?
I do. It is MWPUL, M as in Mark, W as in Will, P as in Paul, U as in under, L as in Larry at yahoo.com.
Fantastic. So we'll get that. If you didn't get that, you can always contact me and I can link you guys together. So tell me, what was the most fun thing or enlightening thing or something that sort of gave you an aha moment?
Well, what gave me an aha moment was receiving hundreds of pages of material that I never thought he would be able to give to me. Of course, the key was to ask him the right questions. And once he had a question, he would go on and on and on. But really, the greatest thing of all, and I don't know if Mark has said this at all, but Mark is not the same person he was 10 years ago. He was extremely depressed. He was just at the point where he didn't know what to do with himself. I was afraid he might even be thinking bad things and bad things at the time. But since that book came out, he has just moved eons past what he was. I'm totally amazed by what he has done, and it just made me feel so good to be a part of something like that, and to see him just, hey, I'm in the world now. I am somebody, and
That's fantastic.
I think that was the most powerful thing that really gave me great feelings inside.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Well, as usual, time goes really fast and we're out of time. But I want to thank you both so much for spending the time with me and highlighting what life is like with autism. Mark, thank you as usual. It's always a pleasure having you. I hope you have the best rest of time and good luck with the book. And I'm sure a publisher is going to want that soon. And that's it for today's rendition. Another fascinating look at some part of life that makes us 88% happy. This is Dr. Marissa reporting live from my living room, reminding you that it's all about balance, peace in, peace out, world peace through inner peace, and have the best day ever.